Hello, everyone. This is Tyler here, and I am going to bring on one of my subscribers. He goes by Noble. He's actually from Portugal, of all places. Very interesting guy and very fascinating backstory. So, here we go. It's been a really brutal week for me work-wise, but fortunately, it's Friday tomorrow. So, here's Mr. Noble Savage here. Savage. Hello, Noble.
Portugal of all places,
Yes. Is that right?
meaning is like so irrelevant.
Why?
I'm just kidding. Hey man, Tyler, how
Sorry.
are you doing, man?
Oh, I'm pretty worn down, honestly, from the week. I'll be honest about it. Like yeah, I, I'll just say that working in a school setting is pretty brutal, honestly. Like, and sometimes, I mean, I can definitely feel that it's like Friday or Thursday here. So, um, fortunamente es el fin de semana and 2 días aquí, entonces para nosotros es una feriado en lunes. I think you can understand.
Sí, yo
Okay.
comprendo muy bien. Pero ¿cuántos
Okay,
idiomas tú
bueno.
hablas, mi amigo?
Como, digamos, 3 idiomas, ruso, español e inglés.
Wait, Spanish, English, and?
And Russian, ruso. Yeah,
Здравствуйте, коллега,
idioma
как
Russian.
дела?
Хорошо. Я очень устал.
Я
Yeah,
хочу
no,
кушать курица и рис, пожалуйста, блядь.
okay, хорошо. Понятно. Понятно. Um, ahora estoy demasiado cansado para hablar en otro idioma. Entonces, sí, say in English. So how's it been for you this week?
For me,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really living like a really dull month at the moment. Hey Tyler,
Okay.
can you just give me 10 seconds? I'm just gonna make sure that no one fucks with the call because I'm staying with some people and just to make sure that no one like interrupts. Just a second, please.
Okay. So, as everyone here knows, this is Noble. Him and I are actually pretty close in age. He's just slightly older than me and very cool guy. I mean, he has a really incredible backstory. Funny thing about Noble, he's been out of school since like 2007. Like, I was still like a just starting high school at that point, and I mean, I've still went through college, and he took a very different path. He's been out of school for like at this point, I guess half his life. So yeah,
Oh
very
shit, no cap. It has been more than half my life. Like wow, man,
yeah,
winning.
yeah, yeah. That's and yeah, I was just sharing with everyone. Can you talk a little about firstly like your background novel for everyone here? Just that's usually how I started off with these with everyone.
Like you mean my adolescence?
Yeah, like like yeah, from like early upbringing and like how you came to today.
Okay, so zero from 4 years old. I was with my biological parents. They did drugs, and my father was an alcoholic. Me and my sister ended up being adopted. My godmother, our godmother, is the lady who I call my mom,
Okay.
because she raised me from the age of 4 until I was an adult and legal to get a passport and fuck off. But it's from I guess from 4 to 12. It was like my childhood was it was great. Like if I had never left and started seeing the world, I would have said my childhood would have been the best years of my life. But compared to how sweet my life has been since the age of 20, yeah, it's just like so dull and like boring, and I guess it's just like watered down and generic childhood. But I mean, I was very lucky. It could have been bad.
Wow. So you were adopted, and so did you spend most of your early childhood with your adopted parent or parents?
Yeah, so from 0 to 4, I was with my biological father, my biological mother, and with my sister. I remember seeing my dad pass down on the floor and like all drunk and shit. And I mean, this doesn't bother to talk to me about anymore, but maybe it's a little bit like a little gross for the viewers. One time, my dad was so drunk that he opened the fridge, thinking that it was the bathroom, and he just pissed all over the food. It was like even at that young age, I knew that it was just not normal.
Interesting. Wow. And
But there was no
how
like physical abuse or something like that, because some people who grew up with fucked up like addict parents, that does happen, but they never laid a finger on me. Like they always like screamed, "Oh, do this, like go relax" or something, but it was never like physical.
Interesting. And like your parents, what was their age more or less when they had you? Your mom and dad.
My mom had me when she was 23, and she was
Okay.
already doing cocaine. But I said on the last podcast, the last episode when I was here, that had she been 33 and
Mhm.
clean, because she was older, I would have been more fucked up than what I am today. But because she
Yeah.
was younger, even doing the drugs, I turned out to be normal. But just to say that women should be having children as like from the age of 18 until like 25, but like even at their early 20s, it's like, eh. I mean, it's possible, and the
Hmm.
kids come out okay, but are they going to be like the best that the parents can like push their genes forward? I'm not so sure.
Yeah. No, that is a good point. I mean, a dad can have a child when they're 60 years old, and the child will be totally normal. I actually know a guy, no lie, who's almost 70. Every man has a story. His name's Mark Thornton. He interviewed me a couple years ago, and his wife's like 26, I think, or 27. He is, no lie, he's over 40 years older, or almost 50 years older than her. So, well, yeah, like 40 some years older. But that is a good point. If I may ask, how did your mom finance the drug habit? Because I know, I mean, cocaine we call the rich man's drug here in the U.S. La droga de la pobreza. Okay, yeah, it just cut out.
She
So
Hello?
I was, yeah, the video just cut out. I think on your my signal is actually decent today, but
Okay.
basically I was asking, how did your mom finance like the cocaine habit? Because I know it's a very expensive drug. Here in America, we often call it the rich man's drug, la droga de la gente rico. Um,
Yeah.
what was
My
your mom? Yeah.
my grandparents from on my mother's side were financing her poor habits, just because they could. And it's I guess it's I grew up in a very like liberal, even by today's standards. Back then, in
Yeah.
the early like in the late 80s to early 90s, when I was born, like 91. This was already a very liberal area, because it's like near downtown Lisbon, and
Hmm.
drugs were just everywhere. Now they're even more, but they were like fun and interesting back then. And
Hmm.
now it's just like, whatever. They even passed a law saying that it can be like decriminalized, so people lost their interest. But back then it was like, let's try this. So yeah, they were financing the shit for her. She would just like ask for money and then spend it on the shit.
Very interesting, and because Portugal, I have a good Russian friend, and he like he likes to use Portugal as like a benchmark for how all countries should confront drug issues in society. Do you think this, because this certainly relates to your family, do you think this heavy decriminalization of drugs or narcotics is effective? How they're doing it in your country, Portugal?
Well, yes, but it doesn't. Of course, it doesn't get rid of the problem. And
Okay.
anyone who gets caught with a certain amount, as long as they're
Mhm.
not distributing, like or like selling to like kids or something, no one goes to jail. They just say that you need to go to therapy because there's something wrong with you on a psychological level. But I'm actually very against it, because me and my sister, we grew up seeing, like disturbing things, like parents not behaving properly, not taking care of the house or themselves.
Mhm.
And we even like my sister was 2 years older than me. Like she was like almost had to learn how to cook basic food at the age of 6 to feed
Yeah.
both of us. So I never touched anything. I never drank alcohol in my life. The
Never.
worst thing that I ever poured in, yeah, never. No, the worst thing that I ever put in my body was a fucking like McDonald's burger, and even that I cut out. But it's just I think this is just my opinion, but to get rid of like drugs for good, or to disincentivize or stop people from doing it, just follow what Singapore is doing. Just follow what Thailand is doing. Maybe not Thailand, because they still get like fucked up there, but Singapore I think is a very good model for the world. Just because if you get caught with a little bit of anything, you go off to the can, and you're just fucked for life. So I don't like drugs. I hate drugs. I hate alcohol. I hate the smell of it. I just don't like even people who do it. I mean, no offense, Tyler. I know that you do like to drink, but you're more open-minded and you like to travel, so you're different.
Yeah, and you might know, I actually was in a really physically bad state. If you like how I look now is much. I mean, I'm still in the process of losing, say about 15 more pounds. For my height, though, I'm not. It's not like that bad. But like, if you saw me in the summer, I was on to like we don't use liters as much here in the U.S. We typically, but we'll just say I was downing like a lot of wine and beer at one point. It was on a level that was like just really out of control. And where I was living, it's very tropical in the summer. It's exceptionally humid and hot here in Florida. So I was on two separate occasions, I was very close to suffering from some seizures. Like one time I was almost there, and that's like a different story, but that's an interesting perspective that you have there. And let me ask you here, did your mom, or let me think here, was your mom, you had mentioned in a video a few days ago that she's still on drugs, correct? Noble.
Yeah, she still, there's like she
Okay.
gets in and out, and she goes to rehab, and then I'm clean, and then she goes back to it. I had to cut contact with her, like but carry on, yeah.
Well, yeah, it's kind of interesting because here in Florida, it's a huge drug state for the U.S. I mean, I know so many people. I mean, like in my high school that I work at, there's so many students that are addicted to some kind of drug, percentage wise. But one of my former bosses, actually, his wife was a cocaine addict, and she was addicted to pills, and he was also, but he got sober like many years ago from the drugs, but his wife still used this stuff until present day. So it's one of those things that, like, if you don't cut by, like, say the age of 30 or so, it's really difficult, based on what I've heard, but that's how it goes. So going to your background, you were finished with school around the age of 14 or 15, correct?
Yeah, 15. It was like the summer of
Okay.
15.
And what was like kind of the ideal behind that? What was your decision in doing that and just stopping?
Well, there was nothing like, oh, I want to like work and go travel the world. No, that happened later. But I just started questioning things. Like there comes a time where, a boy like hits puberty and he starts like questioning things like the universe and the cosmos and whatever the fuck you want to call it. But for me, it was, is this really, does this go with what human nature is supposed to be like? Is this synchronized with how humans should live? And I was never like hyperactive, because I knew that, like maybe you could go on medication if the teachers like went to like the superiors of the school, and then the parents would be like, oh, your child like is never paying attention, he has ADHD or ADD or whatever, like attention deficit disorder, yeah, and he needs medication. I knew that if I just would like not dumb myself down a little bit in class, I would just face some type of consequences. I remember telling this to my classmates, like, what do you think happens if you just like I don't know, spit in a teacher's face or something, like they were like, what? Why you can't do that? You can't even think like that. Why you can have trouble for even talking like that? And I'm like, fine, but what would happen? Like, do you get kicked out of school? And then if you get kicked out of school, like, what happens? Are you allowed to come back? Are you banned from this school or every other school? Like, what happens? And it just it like little things like this just pushed me towards wanting to know what the other side of the fence is like. Meaning, I don't mean like life on the street or like in a workplace. I just meant anything else, really.
Interesting. Yeah, and that was like around the mid 2000s. And like I can testify, like, I mean, the information and stuff was not as prevalent like you have now, folks. So if anyone thinks that, like, I mean, dropping out, I don't know how it was in Portugal, but like certainly in the US, that was obviously strongly discouraged. And even like the internet itself, how it functioned and stuff, we didn't have like high speed internet was just becoming a thing stateside. But it was definitely like at your age, for example, and this tells everyone here how different some of my viewers are. I would never have considered, I was in a college prep, very prestigious high school actually in Chicago at this time. So I would, at that age, I'd never consider like dropping out of school. But like the fact that you did in Portugal, was that like common at the time, and how, or was it like less mainstream?
Well, according to some index that I've read a few years ago, Portugal is actually one of the countries in the European continent where it's the most common for kids to graduate high school. So according to the specialists, I must be like a really dumb fuck for even managing to fuck that up.
Interesting. Yeah. So, in Portugal, I mean, would that have been around, say, like, just starting high school, or you were already in high school, like the equivalency here stateside?
I think the equivalent in the US is the last four grades. The last 4 years is high school. So over here, only the last three are escola secundaria, which means like secondary school, which means high school. But I left a year before, which is still our middle school, like our last year of middle school, which will be the equivalent of your freshman year in high school.
Yep. Wow, very fascinating. And yeah, I mean, I obviously work with like students of this age group, and typically, I mean, I don't know how it is in Portugal, but stateside, especially in Florida, I mean, the recent like people who drop out like that are usually like either like really bad students, like they fight a lot, they're using heavy like drugs, or they're pregnant, or like they just simply don't care about being there. But it seems like you're kind of like in a different situation, a different category. You were thinking kind of ahead of your time. And did any of your friends follow you suit, or was it just yourself?
No, because all my friends, the circle that like the kids that I was hanging out with the most, they all came from like a similar, like a household where it's like clean. Because mind you, this is my godmother, my adoptive mother, who is also very against drugs, and she has done the best that she could to raise me and my sister, and we didn't have a dad ever since we left home. And so no one really could relate to me, and whatever I was saying to them, none of them could resonate with them, because they just weren't, I guess, in that I don't want to say a higher level of consciousness, because that means like I'm talking way too great about myself, and I don't want to be that guy. But for me, I just prefer to go to the skate park and like go hang out with like older kids and stuff.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I have some crazy students in my school. I mean, I have ones that are have been in juvenile detention facilities. there's ones that have gun charges, of course, drug charges. Some have felony record. So here in the U.S., there's at least in Florida, people, if they have a felony conviction when they're a minor, in some cases they can get it erased when they turn 19 if it occurred when they were a minor. So in that situation, some are some will and some won't, but it's it's quite a grab bag of people. So when you finished or when you were done with school, what then came next? You had left, so I'm sure you probably were going to work or do something else.
Well, I remember I was doing. I don't want to say I was into sports, because to me skateboarding is not really a sport. I mean, I was not trying to go pro. It was just like something to do with the other dudes at the skate park and hanging out. And I wanted to like start surfing or at least bodyboarding, but my mom like never like got me a board, and she's, oh no, you're gonna drown. And like she was actually a little bit protective, and I wanted to rebel and stop being so sheltered and stuff. So since she wasn't like buying me stuff, and I mean, fair enough, I wasn't even going to school. I was skipping like for weeks and stuff. And then well, I just decided to get like not a job, but like a way to make money, which was to go to the local gym and ask if I could do anything, like for a few bucks a day, like clean the toilets or whatever. And they said that I could just go get the flyers and put them on the like the cars on the windshield wipers. I guess that's what you call it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I fondly remember those people when I lived in Chile and South America. Well, here in the U.S., so also like in Chicago. I mean, when you get closer to the city, it's common. And how did they pay you for doing that job?
I mean, I knew the owner, and he let me like work out there for free. I mean, I was just using some machines. I wasn't like lifting heavy or anything, but he let me work out there for free, and like use the sauna and like take showers and stuff. And he was paying me like anywhere between 10 to 15 euros, like just like if I put like an extra 2 hours or whatever. And it was yeah, it was like 5 hours a day. I got to like get a tan and walk like around town and going from neighborhood to neighborhood. It was actually quite cool.
Yeah, and that's interesting too, because when like working in that kind of area, of course, it's like it's not the most glamorous, not the most fun work. Were you into like physically, were you must have been into fitness and all this?
I mean, I've always been like, there's always good weather over here in
Okay.
Portugal. And like people, it's very common for people to be outside all the time. Like no one sits like, mind you, this is like in the mid 2000s, like 2007, 2008. So
Yep.
smartphones, they were just coming out for the first time, and people were still like visiting each other all the time and like sitting.
Okay, sorry folks. There's some connectivity issues, so just bear
Anything was
bear
better
that.
than just like being at home and like listening to my godmother saying, "Oh no, school is important and stuff." So I was lifting like light weights at the gym, going for walks, and just like hanging out with the dudes at the skate park.
Nice. Well, yeah, and that's another thing too. I mean, the like here nowadays in the US, it's almost a it's like a joke because not like even here in Florida, I mean most people in my the neighborhood I live in, they don't go outside very much. Like everyone is in cars. I mean, you can tell by my skin. Like I spend a lot of time outside. Um I don't look like a normal typical Floridian. I mean, you would think even in a state like this, I like you're I also exercise and stuff, and um I don't like being inside a lot. I mean, I'm inside enough for my job, for work, but I definitely like getting outdoors and getting fresh air. And also here in Florida, it's kind of similar to Portugal. The only difference I think is like when we hit summers here, I mean, it gets scorching hot and humid. It's like being in Brazil. It's super tropical in Florida, the whole entire state. It is like heat, like, well, maybe you've experienced, but I think it's a little more mild, or it's not as humid heat over there in Portugal. But so
Yeah,
with
I
this,
would say.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, continue.
I was just gonna say that I've never been to the US, but I've been to Thailand, and it was all very heavy, very humid there, like year round.
Yep,
So
same.
maybe it's comparable to Florida.
Okay, so in the colder months here, not so much. I mean, this is what's weird about Florida. Like right now, a lot of the humidity goes away. Um, Once we hit like April, it comes back in, man, during like it can even be May, but certainly during June, July, August, September, and especially during July and August, it is scorching hot here. Honestly, almost every day. Like I'll tell you how hot it is. When I go to places, like I actually have to bring extra like clothing because especially shirts, because my shirts will be just soaked in sweat. Honestly, and I'm not like I'm not even like that heavy. I mean, so you can imagine like it's that humid. Even in the warmer or in the colder months when it's warmer, it can still have the humidity factor there. But it that's actually something that even bothers a lot of people about the state of Florida because of this infamous humidity down here. But that's just part of the game of living here. So going back to your time of doing the flyer or brochure um, job, how long did that job last for, more or less?
Uh, I guess a few months, like 4 or 5 months, and I didn't have to spend any money. I just wanted to show my mom that I could save up and at least like make her have some. It's not comfort, but some relief that I could at least save money and not spend it because like I don't know, maybe she would think that I would like want to spend it on video games or some shit. So I just that was at least my way of like making sure that she wouldn't like nag me or anything. Oh, if mom sees that I'm a professional for at least what I'm doing, then in the meantime that I'm doing this, let me try to find something else to do not simultaneously, but as a second job, or to find something better um like in the future, because I was going to be 18 in a few years. I mean, at 16 you could also like already work in McDonald's, but I don't know. I didn't want it to be around that type of food.
I don't blame you. I've in deep fryers and stuff. I had a job recently where I was having to clean and filter deep fryers almost every single day, and it gets really old and burdensome after a while. Not saying that oil and stuff burns like crazy. When so what was I gonna say? When you were like saying your 14 or 15-year-old self, Noble, you like to be called Noble, is that correct?
I mean, noble. Yeah, I mean, it's my username. I don't want to dox myself.
Okay, so when you were like say 14 or 15, what did you envision yourself like doing or becoming? Like say when you were an adult.
Well, I live in the like heavily industrialized area of Lisbon, so where all the warehouses are and all the factories and industry and stuff, and it's just like full of graffiti, and it's just gross. If you drive 12 minutes, then it's like pretty and it's downtown and it's like posh and stuff. But my neighborhood, like ever since like the early 90s until now, it's just like it's like falling apart. Like we have so many. I don't want to get into like immigration and stuff because I don't know how pro or con you are towards that subject,
No,
but
you can
it's
get
just
into it. I won't.
I
I'm
didn't
not
want to
going to
be
be offended.
homeless.
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I didn't want to be like the homeless people that I was noticing growing
Mhm.
up, because I always thought, hey, if I don't end up homeless or go to jail or end up in a insane asylum against my will, then that's already a very good life.
Interesting. Yeah, and at that time, was there many homeless people in Lisbon?
Well, there were, I guess there was enough because no one is supposed to be homeless. You look at one and you just question the whole entire system.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I mean, you know what they say in America here now? It's so bad that people are like one paycheck away from being homeless. I mean, that's the reality for at least say 30 to 40% of people. It's just terrible. I
Oh
mean,
man.
I've fortunately never been homeless. I've been close to it, but I've never have. And there's countless people here in the U.S. living in their cars and vans and whatnot. I don't know if you see the same thing there in Portugal now. Is that happening?
Yeah, so like I would say van life is even more popular than what it is in the US. I don't know how
Okay.
the 60s were over there, like with a hippie like a movement and everything, but it's just over here like it's very common for all the northern Europeans like from like Scandinavia, Germany or the UK to bring their vans and
Hmm.
come spend the winter here if they can have enough money to like go to a campsite or drive around or something. But it's actually frowned upon now because we have a lot of fires and we think it's the van lifers who make like campfires and stuff. I don't think so. I think it's the globalists. They just want to burn down the entire forest so we have nowhere to go when shit hits the fan. You know what the fuck I'm talking?
Absolutely. Yeah, and sometimes too, I think people over glamorize it. I mean, unless like if you have everything down to a T, you have like because people don't think about all the electronics and all the nuances. Like if you're living in a house or apartment that you don't have to deal with, you have to be so well planned out and configured if you're going to live that way like long term without being really uncomfortable. It's quite difficult, honestly. And there are most certainly people who are genuinely interested in that lifestyle, but other people I think are doing it, acting as if they're interested, especially on YouTube, but are just doing it because they cannot afford to like pay rent or something in a city, and they're also trying to make money off, say, YouTube from it. But I know you've done it. We're going to go into that in a bit later here because I know you've had experience doing that, Noble. But so yeah, and another thing I was going to mention. I mean, I don't know if most people here have heard of Cristiano Ronaldo. He hails from Noble's country, Portugal. His dad was a pretty hardcore alcoholic, and he came from a fairly my mediocre background, I guess you could say. But his dad died at a premature age, and he obviously became a soccer great. So, um, having certain upbringings, of course, doesn't always dictate where you end up with. So going back here, Noble, you what after you did this job, did you move on to something else? Or I know you were also big into like the skateboard stuff, which by the way, I was actually also big into inline skating and kind of the extreme. I still am actually very into extreme sports, but what were you doing then at that point?
Well, then I moved to the south because I had some family there, and
Mhm.
I started working in construction and doing some farm work. I had to stay somewhere after staying with my aunt and my uncle for some time because they were going to suggest that I would like start like paying rent and stuff, and I wanted to keep. I know it sounds greedy, but I wanted to keep money and just like save as much as I can because my mind was already set on leaving and exploring greener pastures and stuff. So what I've done was I moved to a farm where I met the first people who spoke English, and there were a couple of Dutch people who were like very well off, and they'd like had a swimming pool and they had animals and stuff. It was great. It was like an organic farm, and I was doing volunteer work there just to have food and a bed for free, and I wouldn't have to have any expenses. And then on my free time, I was going to the neighbors next door to work construction, like making. And I learned everything, like to mix the cement, how to make the wall, like to use the wire to make the wall flat and stuff, carrying the wheelbarrow and like being an assistant and working with a saw. It was actually pretty cool. I remember that time with like fun memories. I liked it.
Wow. And how did you get paid doing that?
Cash at the end of the day.
Oh, okay. What, like, obviously that was a long time ago. Like, what, more or less, how much were you making a week or a month, would you say?
Oh, dude. So, my boss was German, and
Okay.
he had money. So he was like a tycoon. Like he was a big construction guy, and
Okay.
he was paying me 50 euros a day
Hmm.
for 10 to 12 hours of work. But it was
I
heavy
mean,
stuff, man. Like in
yeah,
the 40-degree weather, like 40 degrees Celsius,
Celsius,
like
which for
going with
Americans, it's like over 100 degrees Fahrenheit here.
yeah, going with a
Yeah.
wheelbarrow like up to the fifth floor, and
Hmm.
like using like slopes made of like planks, like wooden planks, and you couldn't spill anything or you get yelled at. I mean, it was tough shit, but I made good friends there. I don't know what the fuck everyone is doing because I lost contact with everything, but I hope everyone is okay.
Yeah, no, that is tough work, and I have some students actually that do that work in construction. I've told them, like they're high school age, I've said just make the most of it at these years because I mean, once you hit your mid 20s, you're probably not going to be in or want to do that kind of work anymore, unless you're doing skilled carpentry or electrical and HVAC stuff like that.
Hang on, you think in your mid 20s you kind of hit like your physical wall?
Um, Sort of. I think some of it though might be also mental. I mean, like it's like easy often to have high schoolers go and do certain high school age people do certain kinds of work, or even college age. But I think there also is a mental component. Um, but it also depends on like what you're being paid and stuff. I am not kidding you. I have a student here whose dad owns a construction, or he's a partial owner of a construction company here in Florida, and he pays his son, I think it's around $32 an hour, which I mean, even
Wow.
for like current US standards, that would still be a lot for a high schooler to work for his construction business. And it's like, yeah. Okay, sorry folks. Once again, there's some connectivity issues here, so just bear with us. But um no, that so how long did you do that kind of work for Noble?
This was just for an entire month. I mean, I've done this like every day, like every single day that I could.
Okay.
Um, and I didn't have to spend any money. But then there was a couple of like Irish dude. There was a group of Irish people. One was
Hmm.
Welsh, I remember, and one of him and his girlfriend, they wanted to open a surf shop in south of Portugal because it's very popular for surfing and windsurfing, kite surfing, and anything that is like related to water sports. And they wanted someone to teach them some Portuguese language, and I actually did. So I became a teacher very early, and I know that you're a teacher right now, and it's I mean it was okay. I prefer to do like more physical stuff.
Yeah, and the kind of teaching you're doing greatly differs and varies. It's um like there's a lot of money to be made and then there's not a lot of money to be made. It just hugely differs on the person, the type of teaching, et cetera, et cetera. Are you being aided by the government that you're living in? Because that also plays a huge role. So I kind of I know you mentioned and I brought it up a bit earlier. So your family was all right with you at this point working, not doing the whole traditional school approach, just
No,
alone.
of course they were pleased with me like being active and you know being productive, but they wanted me to like have a more like a traditional like pursuing like academics and having a diploma and everything because that was like the high status and respectable thing to do. But that never meant anything to me. So I just I guess I had to prove myself to my parents after the first year of me backpacking and not seeing them for 7 to 8 months. And then when
Hmm.
I returned, they saw me like more mature. Even my voice sounded different and everything. And it just, I mean, they were proud. And to this day, like I can go to fucking, I don't know, I can like leave with very little money and they know that I'm going to return okay.
Wow. No, I mean, sounds in that sense similar to my brother. My brother Todd has been living on his own now for most of his 20s, and he can definitely figure out a way to make it if he's in a financial constraint or financial bind. And that's a really admirable trait, honestly, for people, especially nowadays where a lot of people act or are kind of helpless. So when you were in Portugal, and something to the comment here in La Plata here, my brother's talking about Argentina. People can rent a place for $200 a month. Can you believe that?
I mean, I can, because it's
Yeah.
I don't want to call Argentina a third world country, but if you go like to any village, I mean, there are options out there for sure.
Like we're digressing a bit here, but what's kind of your take on Argentina? Being from Portugal, I mean, you guys obviously have a culture that's probably more similar to Argentina than many places. How do you see that country?
Well, I've never been to South America or Central America, and in North America,
Okay.
I only been to Canada, Calgary, and a little bit of Ontario states. I mean, Ontario province. Um, the only country that I really know more or less how it is Brazil, obviously. But
Hmm.
I heard Argentina might be the most prestigious and prosperous one, but still like having a lot of crime comparing to, I guess, Western Europe. And I mean, these days Western Europe is more dangerous than Eastern Europe because of all the migrants and stuff. But I don't know. It was never interesting enough to me to want to go there.
No, I see, and yeah, like another thing too, I was going to bring up too, like people your age, like I've noticed if they leave home around or they stop school in their mid-teens and they immediately start working, not just like mooching off people, they tend to be a lot kind of further ahead in some ways, psychologically speaking. They some of the same people, of course, like to go abroad. Like, you ever seen the movie Titanic
Uh, who
with
hasn't seen the
Leonardo?
movie
Okay.
Titanic?
Well, I don't know if people know this, but like he plays actually as a fairly young guy. I mean, the plot line is that he was actually like he had gone out and started like living in Europe when he was in his teens, and yeah, I mean, and of course, like his, I guess now his girlfriend in the movie would have been considered underage, whatever underage means. I mean, I like, of course, they portray her as being 18, but in real life, she was probably actually closer to like 16 or 17. But yeah,
I mean, in some countries, the age of consent is actually 16. So maybe it's
yes,
just to us like Westerners that we think, oh no, that's blasphemous. Oh, that's preposterous. Oh no way. But it's like so normal in other societies, you know.
yeah, and even in some states, I mean, it's like many states it's 17, and some U.S. states it's even 16, as far as I know. I mean, here in Florida, though, I mean, you do not want to be like dealing with a crime with quote minors. I mean, they are like the Gestapo down here. I'm not encouraging.
It's the same
But,
over here. Like
oh,
I
is
have a
it?
cousin. I have a
Mm-hmm.
cousin who, no cap, he was already 19 years old, and he was messaging a 17 year old girl who was
Hmm.
not too far away from becoming 18.
Yeah.
Someone saw that they were exchanging messages, like some of like the people in the circle or whatever on Facebook, and he got reported,
Wow.
and he had to
Did you get
go to
arrested?
therapy. No, no, no. Like
Okay.
they say there's something wrong with the person's psychological health or something, but it's like I guess he had to do it so he wouldn't get in the more dire trouble. So it was like I mean I never dealt with anything like this in my life, but
Hmm.
I think it was something along those lines.
Yeah, if he was in Florida, they probably would have cuffed him and he would have been sent to jail. Um, it's yeah. I mean, it's really well. Yeah, that's like a different topic for a different time. But something that Todd said is in Argentina about our being able to live such a high standard of living. Have you ever heard of Andrew Henderson from Nomad Capitalist?
Uh, I can't say that
No.
I have, but I've heard of the name.
Okay, I gotcha. Um, very well. So, and you worked that job for a bit of time, and then what happened after that?
Sorry, what was that?
Well, what happened after this job that you worked on the farm for a few? You worked for like a month or so.
So I made a pact with myself that I wanted to leave the country and start seeing Spain, because like Spain, it's like this in Europe, like there's always like a big country and a small country that is like the neighboring country that is either the less interesting or the most interesting. So
Hmm.
for Portugal, it's Spain. For Germany is Austria. For France is Belgium, and for Sweden is Denmark, I guess, and the UK
Hmm.
is Ireland. So like Portuguese, like the young Portuguese people, they're always talking about like going to Barcelona and Valencia and Ibiza, and I because I don't drink, like I know that those places are very like nightlife and stuff, and I was more into just going to like where there's nature, like some like the Mediterranean for like swimming and stuff.
Hmm.
But I wanted to see Spain because it was like the bigger, cooler version of Portugal. So I went there, and I wanted to leave. I made a pact that I would leave with €1,000,
Hmm.
but I didn't want to miss out because then it was going to be winter. So I left with less than half. I left with 400 and something euros, I remember, and I made that money last for almost 3 months, like no cap.
Wow, that's impressive. I mean, yeah, and that was probably around 2010, I imagine, or was it
Uh,
earlier?
Yeah, no, it was this was I was already 20 years old. Yeah, I feel embarrassed
Okay.
because I've traveled so much already, but I started like late because I never went anywhere with my family. So I left the country the first time to go next door to Spain when I was
Hmm.
20 years old. So this was 2012, and yeah, of course I was doing like odd jobs here and there, like in some farms just to have some place to stay. But the construction was 1 month, and
Hmm.
then I got enough money for to leave just so I could say that I'm not leaving with zero. And
Well,
I was staying for free with people. Do you know about couch surfing?
absolutely.
Yeah, so I was doing a lot of that. I was doing a lot of. I think I mentioned on the last stream that I was getting free food from the restaurants, like walking to the restaurant and offering to work 1 hour for free, like no money, just to get a meal. And nine times out of ten, the manager or owner just says, "Hey man, if you're hungry, just sit down and I'll give you some food." And because they saw me with like messy hair and a backpack and like skinny guy, and they wanted to help. So
Yeah.
I've done that enough times during the day. Of course, I got like a lot of no's, but like the yes is like if people want to help, they will help. Either the manager's not there, or you deal with like some assholes, or like the restaurant is packed. But I've always got food. Always, it was never a problem.
Wow. And explain how that works. Just you can also explain the couch surfing because there probably are people here who don't know how that setup works.
So you mean like couch surfing?
Yeah.
So couch surfing used to be about you going to someone's house who has a profile, and you need to have a profile too as a surfer, aka a traveler, and they would have a couch. Sometimes it's not a couch. Sometimes it's like a guest room, and you have someone somewhere to stay, either for 1 night to 3 nights, and then I mean, if you're lucky, it could be a week. I was lucky sometimes because I offered to do some work in a garden just to stay a few extra days until finding a next place and stuff. But nowadays, I think that's dead because bitches, when they travel, they only want to go to Airbnb and stuff.
Hmm.
And guys, they don't host other guys because they want to host girls, but they don't anymore.
Wow. Okay, so a few things here that's kind of funny. I want to try to keep this concise. So I remember when I was first told about couch surfing. I was around 20, around in 2013. I was in South America, and I'd never heard of that concept before. Even in the U.S. at that point, around 2012, it wasn't a very well known concept. I actually remember though my brother met a gal from Russia, or his friend was like he was of Russian origin, but he grew up in Czech Republic, and that's actually how he met a gal that he was trying to make his girlfriend was for the couch surfing setup. I think it was her apartment. or maybe it was his. Yeah, I think it was hers, and then he stayed there, but it, of course, didn't work out. But as you brought up, Airbnb kind of took the precedence over couchsurfing, at least a few years ago. But I think some of
Yeah,
those trends
because
were.
think about it. If no one is getting laid on Tinder, they're not going to get laid on couchsurfing because the risk of being falsely accused is even higher.
Absolutely. Well, and that takes us to another question also, like in your mid to late teens and 20. And so, did you have any girlfriends at that point? And, like, how did that work out?
No,
If
I
you
didn't.
did?
I didn't.
Okay.
I didn't have any girlfriends whatsoever. My first girlfriend was actually when I was 23 years old, and I was just like meeting like some other volunteer girls at the farm and at the hostels because you know how that is. Like they're loose.
Mhm.
They're you're not from there. She's not from there, and it's like oh you want to go to church and like oh let's check out the nice church and
Vamos a
then
la
I mean
iglesia.
not like
Okay.
the church to go to the ceremony. I mean, like as a
Okay.
tourist to go to the church, like to take some photos and stuff. And then
Mhm.
like you put your arm around her or you whisper in her ear, and then it's like easy, but it doesn't mean anything because you know that they're gonna do the same thing to other guy in the next city.
And where were the gals usually from?
Oh, dude, there were a lot of them were from Germany because
Okay.
Germany has a very huge population of people, like 80 something
Mhm.
million people. So you meet a lot of backpackers from there and from France.
Did you
It
know
was
the? Oh, sorry.
no, go ahead.
Like all of my ancestry is of Northwest European. My dad's ancestry is 100% of Scandinavian background. His grandparents were from Scandinavia, so just kind of a fun fact there.
Yeah, I remember you
Um,
wearing
yeah.
like a Norway like a beanie or something in your videos.
Oh yeah, yeah. And to this day, I mean, even here in the U.S., many people, for some odd reason, still think I'm from Germany or France or Scandinavia. But even when I was in Russia, a lot of people would think I was from like one of those countries. It was more common than for people to think that I was from the states. So it's yeah. I mean, kind of and then, because in America, obviously you have all these different people of different geographic regions and different ancestors. People of Scandinavian origin. Fun fact, though, that is one of the rarest regions for people to have ancestry from here in the U.S. It's super uncommon. Like it's so uncommon. Like for someone like my age, being a millennial, to have that ancestry of at least 50% Scandinavian, it's like one in probably 100,000. It's super rare.
Wow, man.
Yeah,
Jackpot. It's like you have good genetics and stuff.
absolutely. Yeah, and it's unfortunate. I mean, there's people down here in the deep south. They don't even know what Scandinavian means. It's just crazy, but that's just what it is. But for anyone who thinks that you were 23 when you've um like had your first official girlfriend, people think, I guess, sometimes if you're not in your teens that you're like screwed, but obviously you proved those people wrong. But it's an interesting point here. One other thing I was going to ask you, Noble. Um, shoot, forgot here. Let me think here. I have to brainstorm. Um, oh yeah, you speak really good English. Honestly, hablas muy bien en
Oh,
inglés.
thanks.
¿Cómo aprendiste inglés? For having dropped out of school at 15, that's something that just occurred to me. Did you learn it in school? Because I know many Portuguese people who are like older actually don't speak much English. Is that correct?
I mean, I can't really compare myself to anyone else, but if you think about
Okay.
it, I mean, I just had a lot of time to like watch a whole bunch of like Hollywood movies and pick up on the words and even the accent
Mhm.
because as a young European, everyone thinks like America's really cool and they don't know anything
Mhm.
about like what goes on politically and like with like the sex parties and like the cults and stuff. So it's like, yeah, America is cool for like people who don't know like America's deep secrets. But yeah, I would say no. People over here, the young people, everyone speaks English, but it's like
Okay.
again, like from Netflix and stuff. Like no one goes to school. I mean, they have English in school, but they learn it from the internet and stuff.
Okay. So you learned it mostly through kind of unofficial settings.
Yeah, and then it was like on the road too.
I see. And you said too, so you had traveled some by the time you were in your early 20s, including to North America, Canada. I myself actually, with my family, parents traveled a lot domestically when I was growing up. Unlike in your situation, like we drove like thousands of miles, XYZ. I still remember in the summertime during my summer vacays, we would have like maybe 2 months of the year summer break where I would be in different places. But and then it wasn't until the first international trip I took was when I was 14. I went to Mexico with my family, and then eventually I went to Europe when I was 19, 18 or 19, I think. But for you, so you went to Canada. You said, was that in your early 20s?
So I had just turned 21. It was early 2013, and they
Okay.
sent me back because I hadn't brought enough money with me.
They sent you back?
Yeah, but then I went back later, the
Okay.
same year. It worked like this. It was my first country going away from Europe,
Hmm.
and I had no stamps in my passport, and I had just gotten it. So they thought I was going to um, be in a bad situation, and then I would have to like work illegally, and then they thought I was going to disappear, and then could not find me and stuff. And it was actually really cool, but I really wanted to see Canada because the nature it looked very interesting, and it was like far away and like mysterious.
Hmm.
But after I collected some stamps from other countries, I ended up going there also with like very little money. But then they said, "Hey, just come." And I had a bus from not Victoria, from Vancouver to Seattle, so to the US. So like it was a Greyhound bus, and
Hmm.
that was enough for them to say, "Oh, okay, he's gonna leave the country." So, but then I ended up not going, and then I got in trouble, and it's a really long story. I don't know if I want to talk about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, you can talk about it if you want. I mean, you're not. There's no. I mean, no doxing here. One thing I was going to say is that um, Portugal and I think Canada has visa-free travel, so you could easily come to. Like, why did you choose Canada of all places in that province?
Oh God, I'm embarrassed to say because it was in my simp days. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So I met a chick, Canadian chick from Calgary, and fucking okay. So we all done some simpy shit. I flew all the
Absolutely.
way there just to see her and fuck her.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, it makes I don't want to talk about that because it reminds me of me being like just a pathetic simp, and I've grown since then, really.
Yeah. Well, I will be honest. So, like, being someone in your like going to like a first world English speaking country, especially at that time, 10 years ago. I mean, it wouldn't. Surprisingly enough, I actually wouldn't look at like in as negatively because the fact that like say economics could be say improved if you went there and potentially you could actually be in a long term a better situation even if you don't want to stay there. I don't really actually wouldn't see it as like negatively in that sense, especially if you're coming from a country economically that was considered lower than somewhere that was considered higher. But
No, but I
I
mean,
mean,
I just no. What I mean, I just went there to get my dick sucked. I didn't go there to like find a higher paying job.
okay. So, like, was there something about Canada, or was it just more of random that you happened to come across a certain Canadian gal?
No, I just wanted to destroy her. I just wanted to pump her. I didn't want the nature
Okay.
was like interesting, but I
Hmm.
really wanted to go there because for me the Northern Americans, like Americans and Canadians, like they felt like
Hmm.
higher status at the time than all European people, and I wanted to like show to my friends that I was making on the road, that I was going there, like I was like pushing myself away from like the beaten path, and going to Spain and Germany and all these other countries. So yeah, but
Did
I don't
you
want to
ever
talk about
consider
this
going
anyways.
to like Russia or Ukraine like at that time? Because obviously those places were also would have been like kind of alternatives or
No, so that came later. That came in
okay.
2015 when I was 23 years old, and that's when I met Tatiana,
Okay.
Tanya. Every bitch is almost every bitch over there is called Tatiana, so I'm not doxing anyone. So
Yeah,
it's
Tatiana or like Anastasia or
yeah, like Alexandra,
Svelana.
some shit like that.
Yeah, Svelana.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, then that came later, and then after that relationship was over, that's when I found Sandman, because I was
Same.
googling. Yeah,
Who hails from Canada also.
yeah, but this was very early. It was
Okay.
2015. So like there was almost no channels available at that time. Sandman was just starting on the
Hmm.
second year or something. So
So you knew
it was
about Sandman at that point?
I found him. I found Sandman. So I put on
Interesting.
Google how I put the simplest shit on YouTube and on Google, like how to get your girlfriend back, and because I
Oh,
wanted to get my ex back because she left me for a guy with a boat and everything, and
which
I
ex
wanted
was
to get
it?
her. Sorry, what?
Was it the Canadian or the
No,
Eastern
no, no.
European?
This was with the Ukrainian one. This one
Okay,
was Tatiana from Dnipropetrovsk.
Denise.
And
Okay.
fucking, I I found Sandman. It was making videos about like female nature, and I'm like, oh, why are women like this? Why are women cheating? And I learned all this terminology and like all these terms like monkey branching and AWOL, like all women are like that. And I was like, what is this like weird stuff? Like no one talks like this. But I was fascinated by it because it was like a new thing. Because I saw some PUA videos from before, from around that era, and they just
Mhm.
seemed like cringy, like putting the woman on a pedestal. And I was like, yeah, I mean, I know how women like operate. Like they want men with status and money, but I wanted to see like something deeper than like not so like surface level. And I found Sandman first, and then it was TFM, and like wow, like my mind was blown. It was talking
Wow.
about fucking hybristophilia and all like like I like no cap. I only learned what feminism was when I was 24 years old.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, Portugal,
because
like too.
because I was really like deep focused on like on making money and like seeing the world. So you see, I was busy, but then when I slowed down to like ask questions and get answers, it's like, what is this feminism bullshit? Oh, what are all these laws? What is the Duluth model? Oh, what is alimony? What is
What is
oh,
the
bitches
Duluth
are
model?
yeah, like all these things. And I was like, I was learning so much in very little time. And then I stopped traveling. Like I've stopped like moving like almost every week to like
Mhm.
book myself in like some place. And like I moved back to my like, okay, so a little bit off topic. Sometimes I go stay with my parents, sometimes with my biological dad or my adoptive mother in different houses.
Mhm.
And because they just let me stay like 2 months to wait out the winter. And I just need to help out a little bit around the house. And then they know that I'm going to be gone for the rest of the year, so they want to see me, they want to help me. So they're very generous people.
Hmm.
And during those months that I was staying with them, I just like I couldn't even sleep because I was like, bitches are falsely accusing niggas, and it's like, what is this? Like I was like, wow, man, you know.
Yeah. No, I mean that is absolutely the truth. And I think I had a Canadian friend actually who told me about Sandman back in 2014. I was actually 21 or 22 at the time, and I didn't learn about Sandman actually until probably 2017, maybe. That was about the time, and like yourself, I eventually just kind of opted to look at dating options in Eastern Europe. I mean, it was hard though. I mean, obviously coming from the U.S., having to go all the way over the ocean, it was not like a. I mean, it was tricky. Fortunately, if you're on the European mainland, you don't have to go nearly as far, and logistics are different. But so When you met that girlfriend, did you meet her via a dating app, or was it through
I,
like?
I just saw it on the streets, and I mean,
Was she
I
in
didn't know that.
Portugal?
No. This
Okay.
the you mean like you mean my ex girlfriend, right, at the time?
Yeah, the one in 2015.
Yeah, so I was
Okay.
I was going to Ukraine because I knew that it was cheap and it was not part of the European Union, so I wanted to see it because it was like
Okay.
different than like Poland or Slovakia or Hungary. And then I just saw her on the street, and I didn't even know that false allegation. I mean, this was before Me Too, and of course,
Mhm.
Ukraine is like less globalized and industrial, westernized than all the other countries. So it's not that I was like brave. It's just that I didn't know that anything could go wrong. It's just like I was still naive, thinking, oh, do you meet girls like by talking to them on the street and stuff? I didn't even know that Tinder was a thing. I learned about Tinder later, and then I just asked her to go for like a pizzeria or something, and just went from there, like very natural. But that doesn't happen these days. Like guys, just you need to drive your own car and have like your own license plates, like to show that you're not from there. And it's like you need to, it's like you have to jump so many hoops, and it's like. I feel so bad for guys who think that they're losers for not being able to pull bitches in Eastern Europe, because it's actually way harder there than somewhere like Sweden where bitches are just loose, you know?
Yeah, conceptual. I mean, it goes very deep. I mean, I could do like a whole different video on that. Like the if you haven't lived in those places, it's very hard for someone to understand like what you're referring to. It's it seems easy, but it's also very difficult. Like in some places, contrary to popular belief that I can be Joe Blow and go to Ukraine and just or Russia and snag a gal. It's a little more complex than that. And as you mentioned, your ex girlfriend, her um guy that followed you was say an owner of a boat or yacht and was obviously very well off. It kind of, I mean, I guess it's good and bad. It tells you how much he valued you. The fact that you were seeing that high, that you were able to do that without having to really flex a lot, as we say. But and so when you went there, did you drive or fly to Ukraine? Because I know
No,
you're one
I,
that's
I
into
I
the
didn't.
mail.
I didn't. The first time that I went there, I didn't even have my driver's license. I got my driver's license when I was 25, almost 26.
Wow, that's like when I stopped driving.
It's
Wow.
because I
Yeah.
really wanted to see the country, and I knew that I could hitchhike and like get on trains, because the train system and the bus system here is like, I think, even better than America. But
Hmm.
it's just like, because your car is made for your country is made for cars. It's not to like take Greyhound buses or anything. So
Absolutely.
I didn't even I didn't even have a license or a car. The only thing that I
Mhm.
had going for me was I don't want to say I'm good looking, but I'm a handsome guy. Of course, I'm not like a male model status, but I'm also not short, and I'm not
Yeah.
thick. I'm not a muscle guy anyway. I'm actually skinny, but anyone who backpacks over here knows that if you do it for plenty of months in a row,
Hmm.
your shoulders like get wide and your waist gets like smaller, and you don't need to eat a lot of food to get like nice like that.
Yeah. So for any of those female viewers here, there, here's your guy here, and that's
Nah, man.
well, yeah, it's unfortunate like we can't see you like for because that's there's good and bad. I mean, for like for myself, obviously, because thousands of people, obviously, I've several many thousands of subscribers. I've always shown myself, so I have to. I mean, I don't do it for that, but I'm conscious of how I look and stuff. But it would be interesting to see how you look, because I'm sure you do look as well as you have described. There's
Well,
no
I
question.
can't I can't show myself over here because I had a YouTube channel that it's now on MGTOW.tv, and I don't want people to associate, like, I don't want people to see me and then going discovering my older videos, you know.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and that makes total sense. It's not worth it. Sometimes you have to pick your battles. Like, um, uh, yeah, there's that's another whole story. I could go into that. Something that Todd just said was this will be covered a bit later, honestly. The child may not have been your Noble's, the one that you had mentioned in a previous video. I'll go through that actually, obviously, a bit later. And then Todd said, like many people, my first Argentine girlfriend cheated on me, which is such a common experience for many guys, at least for their first official girlfriend, they cheat on them. And that's actually another question I have for you, Noble. Do you have in Portugal, is it common for gals to get pregnant when they're like in their mid-teens like you have now in America? Mostly with Black and Latina communities, but do you see that in Portugal?
No, because
Okay.
the birth rate over here is absolute trash. No one is
Mhm.
having kids. It's like I mentioned before in the last stream. Portugal has the highest percentage of divorce in the world at 94%. That's not a joke. You can find that 94% rates that you have of getting divorced. So of course that correlates into the success that you have in a relationship, and of course that's tied into you know, having kids, because I mean, not a lot of young guys are even having sex over here, and the young chicks, like they're already going for, like, they're already hooking up with like the bouncers and the club promoters and the club owners and all the bartenders when they're 18 and 19. So it's like, of
Wow.
course, it's just, nah, they're all fucking the same guys anyway. It's just like, we're not South America or like the Caribbean or something, and then they go to like Florida and so, no, it's like this is just a trash birth rates country in the European continent. It's just it's going to continue like this until we all go extinct. I mean, I don't know, but it looks like that.
Yeah. So it's, I mean, yeah, it's definitely very MGTOW like. I mean, the country has all the traits of a very MGTOW or incel kind of country, but as you stated, it's in many of these marriages, of course, I mean, they're not having kids, correct?
Yep.
Okay. Wow. So I bet the Trojan condom makers must really love your country because they definitely keep, I guess, they definitely stay in business. Um, so yeah, okay, so you were in Ukraine in your early 20s. How did you finance yourself when you were there? And because of course, like many guys, when they go to like Ukraine, Russia, Belarus, they maybe work a remote job of some sort, or they have possibly a pension, or they're living off savings. How did that work for you, Noble, when you were in Ukraine? That was in 2015, also, folks. So that was some years ago.
So you mentioned that Argentina, you can stay somewhere for 200 US dollars or euros a month. Ukraine,
Hmm.
you could, at the time, you could even stay cheaper than that.
Yeah.
So I just brought a couple hundred euros with me, and I was not working. I was just staying there for the time that I was allowed to stay, for 3 months at a time, and then I would leave just as my money was running out. So I would then come back 3 months later with more. So I didn't have to work when I was there.
Fascinating. And why did you choose like Ukraine instead of Russia or Belarus?
Because as a Schengen passport holder, I don't need a visa. I didn't need a visa to go to Ukraine. I still don't. But to go to Belarus, you need. I think at least you need to fly into the Minsk airports. You can
Hmm.
cross by lands, and so Russia was just a lot more complicated. So I never been to both of them,
Interesting.
to
Yeah.
either of them.
And you chose what's like a smaller city in Ukraine, correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
That was a smaller city in Ukraine that you chose to live in, Dnipro.
No, dude, Dnipro is like the third or fourth largest. Well, it was. I don't know what about now. Many people died and left, but
Hmm.
so Kiev is the first, like the capital's I think they have 5 million people. Then it's Kharkiv, I think 2 million people.
Hmm.
Then it's either Odessa or Dnipro, and then it's Lviv and Chernivtsi, not Chernihiv, and then yeah. So it was a big city.
Yeah, and also a fun fact for everyone here, like this guy Noble learned Russian when he was living there and probably continued studying Russian. So he speaks, I mean, just what I've heard, probably before some people got here, he speaks very good Russian. Um, Gavri Oshin. Or so Adruski. And my brother said too that Tinder and Bumble in Argentina is amazing. Did you use those kind of dating apps in Ukraine?
No, I never once went on Tinder because it always felt artificial to me. Of course, I looked at it, and I had friends that were in hostels that they were just doing that. Like they were staying in their dorm and in their like bunk bed, laying down, like swiping left or right, and it was pathetic. Like, why are you here if you're gonna do the same thing that you do back home? It felt retarded to me. It
Hmm.
baffles my mind.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah, and I will be honest. Like when I was in Russia in did you know I lived in Russia in 2019?
I know you lived in Estonia, but I didn't know about
Hmm.
Russia.
Yeah, I lived in Russia for several months, and I met my what became my ex girlfriend at that time. I met her in a retail bank. I did not meet her on a dating app. I tried using dating apps, and all of my experiences were really crappy with the dating apps. But I found that like I could find gals that were actually better looking, nicer through face to face experiences in St. Petersburg, Russia at that time. And that's how I met this gal who was 19 at the time. But I can definitely understand. Her mom, actually, fun fact, was from Ukraine. She wasn't from Russia. Henceforth, why her name was Darina. Why Darina had a Ukrainian name and not a Russian name. But yeah. So, how long did you stay in Ukraine for, Noble? More or
I
less, how
mean,
many years?
if I sum the entire time that I was there since crossing the border for the first time, I would say at least 2 years, like three
Hmm.
months. Then I left for 3 months because you have to leave, and then you can go back again for 3 months, so that's half a year. And I've done that at least 6 times. Wait, three times six,
Wow.
that's 3, 6, 9, 12. I think 2 years in like some months, yeah, I would say, but like never in a row, of course.
Wow. And how many years was that for?
How many years ago?
Or how many years did that go on for?
So I went for the first time in 2015, and I left just as the shit was popping up 2 years ago over there.
Wow.
I was actually in Ternopil. Like I had friends in a village of well, I don't want to say because I don't want to dox myself or anyone there, but it's just I was there because it was cheap, and I didn't want to go spend the winter with my parents, and I could afford to stay like 3 months somewhere cheap, and I was just there because I had friends there. The food is great, and yeah.
Wow, that's incredible. And you obviously learned to speak very proficient Russian. Just what I mean, I'm not a native Russian speaker, but what I've heard already is just very good Russian that you speak. What was your experience like? The Russian gals compared to what you were, or Ukrainian, very similar. Ukrainian gals compared to the gals in Portugal. How did they
Well,
compare?
uh, it's like this. Let's use a third country in between. So let's use Portugal, Ukraine, and Switzerland because I
Mhm.
really want to throw Switzerland into the comparison. So Switzerland is, I think, the richest country, the richest Western country, at least. I don't know if they're richer than America, but they're definitely not as poor because they
Mhm.
don't have homeless people, and it's just life is better over there than the
Mhm.
US. So this much I do know. So the females in Switzerland are actually a lot more not noble, but humble than the Portuguese females over here, where the economy is not so good. Because here they think they're hot shit. Up there they have money, and they're
Mhm.
a lot more down to earth. But I
Yeah.
gotta say, no one is more delusional than the Ukrainian chicks because they know that they're like they make a business out of their beauty.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, you know this,
Yeah, absolutely.
and Russians
um,
are the same.
yeah, I would totally agree with you. I mean, that's why, like, if I get married at this point, it's probably going to be to someone in the like Argentina, maybe South Africa or something. Like, Probably aren't going to be. I mean, I would certainly. I mean, entertain a gal from there for like a relationship, but for marriage, not. I mean, I would probably just prefer going off with a gal of my own ilk, which is like Scandinavian, Germanic. Yeah, and I know people are like, oh, they look terrible, the Scandinavian, but no, I've been to Sweden. I mean, there's some bad looking ones, but they are naturally very beautiful. I mean, I'll be honest about it. Like at least, and it's like, how do you see yourself as a guy? Are you going for low grade gals? I mean, it's kind of interesting because you've heard this saying in America, don't shit where you eat. And that's a principle I have followed all my 20s. I would never put myself in a situation of like pursuing gals like that I teach in high school. But ironically, some of the gals that tend to be more interested in talking to me, like they're usually like actually like the best looking gals. they're not like the crappy looking gals from Florida. They're like very like good looking gals, even for European standards. So it's like um it goes back to the same thing that marriage is a very different situation, equation to just having a relationship. And you see that obviously in Portugal, but it's very profound. Obviously, you look at what Ukrainian gals, what they attract tend to be different. Um, they're domestic guys compared to the foreign guys. I mean, as a foreign guy, you tend to have to bring a lot more to the table usually. But so when you were in Ukraine, did you rent an apartment or stay? Did you live with this girlfriend, or how did that work?
So I rented. I went on booking.com, and I found the cheapest room that you could find that you don't have to share with anyone. So it was still at the hostel, but it was like not the bunks. So it's like the private room in the hostel, and it's like that's all you rent. It's just a room with a bed over there, and it has like a maybe the table. I remember there was another like a place that I've been, and they had like a bathroom and stuff. But it's just it's not. It's like it's. I mean, like when you travel, you want to do it for a longer time, so you um, make a little bit like efforts. I guess the term is you make a sacrifice to make sure that you do it for longer and spending the less money as you can. So that's, I mean, I found a place that it was like the conversion was I think €5 a day, and that was at the time 110 grivna or something, and it was really cheap.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Yeah, that would be really affordable. And at that time, did you follow some of these YouTubers? Were they there at the moment, or were their videos like popping up, like go to Ukraine and XYZ?
No, so then Tatiana broke up with me, and I decided to go back home to stay with my dad. And then I like found TFM and Sandman, and who else was there? Well, it was so my favorite channel of all time. I don't like really OG. I don't know if you know who Big John from MGTOW's Freedom is or was.
Yeah, I've heard of it. He was brought up back when my channel was really blowing off back a few years ago. This guy was mentioned. How was he?
So he now has a channel called The Prepared Mind, and he's a prepper. He's like an ex-marine. He's like really tall, like 6'6" or something, and
Okay.
like he looks like Duke Nukem, like with a dad bod. And it's like,
Okay.
and he's so funny. Like he's there with a sunglasses and a big ass cigar, and he's so
Okay,
funny.
nice.
So he's so
Yeah.
like he was. So for everyone who knows who Big John was, he was always like always saying stuff like, hang on a second. Pode ficar. Fecha. Mãe, vai-te embora. Yeah, sorry, had a problem with my dog. So yeah,
Okay.
So like Big John used to say, I have the penis, I have the cock, I have the balls. And he was like, it was so funny, but he, because of that attitude, they closed his channel. And he even went on, I don't know if it was CNN, but he made an interview on CNN. Like they wanted to know what MGTOW was, and he was the
Oh
face of
yeah.
it. And
Yep. And MGTOW Cowboy just stated that here. That was before MGTOW was what it is today.
yeah, yeah, and it was like my favorite guy of all time. Now guys are like making little compilations of like bitches on TikTok and shit, and it's just it's like it's so generic, you know. I'm so tired
Yeah.
of all these like clips, like, oh, look at his feet fail, ha ha ha. But where's the philosophy, you know?
Well, yeah. I mean, that introduces an interesting concept here. Like, so, like Portugal, is that seen as like presently or more in more recent years as a more conservative or liberal country?
So I think if you follow news, you
Hmm.
can see that the rights is actually rising everywhere in Europe, and I would say the world too. But
Hmm.
everyone is tired of like immigration and liberalism, and then now
Absolutely.
with the farmers, like I'm so it's such a white pill to see like the farmers with the tractors like throwing shit and eggs at the EU buildings and stuff, and
Yeah.
it's
Oh, is that what
and
they're
I
doing in Portugal?
Dude, they're doing it
Okay.
in every country in Europe. They're doing it in
Okay.
Moldova, in
Oh,
fucking
nice.
Sweden, in Ireland. It's everywhere, man.
So, what are they doing exactly? I didn't really know about this.
So it's because of the carbon taxes are like they want to reduce the emissions and stuff because they say for in the name of the climate, you know, in the name of the future, and it's just the farmers are not having it, and they want to import like cheap. I don't know if it's like corn from Ukraine or something, but it like the fucking what's his name? Bill Gates. He's buying all the farmland over there in the U.S. Presumably, you know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah, that I do. That guy is a sociopathic maniac. But you can continue.
Yeah. So it's just you asked your original question was, is Portugal becoming more conservative?
Hmm.
Ah, I mean, in a sense, yes, but I am so past tradcon stuff that I don't care at this point. I think we need like a I don't want to say a reset because that implies a great reset like the World Economic Forum talks about. I just think that men just need to have more authority because a conservative society, men can still be used as like ATMs and like pay all these taxes and stuff. And I just want men to have more authority, you know. So whatever happens, if it's the right or the left, it's all the same garbage to me anyway.
Yeah, no, that's a very true point. Yeah, and what you're seeing now in the U.S. is some of the Gen Z, like, there's a huge gap between how these girls and boys are thinking, or guys and gals in America. Like millennials, you saw it, and then even with Gen Zers, the girls, of course, very liberal generally, but the guys tend or boys tend to be more conservative. It's very strange times that we live in at the moment, and I was going to ask, was Bill Gates going to buy land in Portugal?
I don't know about that, but he's definitely behind, or he has some friends with the people at Monsanto, and they
Oh
wants to.
yeah.
So it's this is all connected because there are only a few people at the top, and they're
Hmm.
all connected. They're over here, they're
Yep.
over there in the U.S. It's garbage. I hate it.
I exactly. I agree. Also, it's wretched.
Definitely. That's the you hit the nail in the head. That's the exact word, like wretched. It's just a
Hmm.
repugnance, you know.
Yeah, and I mean, it's obviously people can argue if it produces like autism and birth defects, but it most certainly, I mean, even if that's not proven, it certainly hurts people. Like I have, or I had high blood pressure until recently because, I mean, yes, alcohol was a factor, but most certainly like the food supply was another factor. Never had high blood pressure. I was drinking like a maniac towards the end of my time in Eastern Europe. Never had high blood pressure, but when I got back here to the States, it just got like, it was so bad. I mean, I had mentioned this in the earlier part of the live stream, Noble, that like, man, if you saw me, I should have taken pictures back in the summer, like in July. Like, I mean, my face, I mean, it's still a bit like bigger than like, I mean, in my YouTube videos, so it was, I mean, I'm a little thin. I mean, I'm almost back where I was, but it was so puffed out from alcohol and other crap. Like my eyes were bloodshot. I mean, I looked terrible, honestly, if you saw me like in July and August. But
Dude, I remember your videos from the end of 2021. It's almost like a whole different person. I almost didn't recognize you because I didn't watch any channels for like a year and a half. And when I found you again, I was like, is that Tyler? My God, he's so different, you know?
Yeah, and I mean, how I am now, I mean, I'm like going back to like in a good way. Not so there are some bad effects here. Like I can tell my viewers here, yes, will I eventually be back abroad? Yes, I will be. I got totally off track with things. I mean, in some ways, but yes, it will happen. It was really harsh. Like I won't go. There's separate stories for that. Honestly, like I said, the alcohol stuff. I was deep into like alcohol. Like, let me put it this way. You know, Cristiano Ronaldo's from your country. Like,
Yeah.
I've known alcohol. Like, when you get to the point of having like near seizures from alcohol, which is the point, I was having the tremors. Like, my hands were just like shaking. Like, literally, in July, they were shaking. When you hit that point, it's like it's more of the scary part of it that like really like causes you to stop than like just, I mean, it's extremely uncomfortable. My chest, my whole body, like I just it was really painful. But that's, yeah. Something I
You
was going
need
to
to go
bring up.
backpacking again.
Yeah, but no, like I said, I mean, since then, I mean, I've lost. I mean, you figure I only give real figures here. I was about 6'3". When I got back from Eastern Europe, I weighed 185 pounds. Fast forward like a year and a half later, I weighed over 240 pounds.
Wow,
I put
man.
on like 60. Now I'm probably around, say, maybe 202. I mean, I'm going for 190. But you figure in the last year, I've lost like, I mean, over 30 pounds, or in the past like 9 months, I've lost. So that just puts in perspective. I mean, I truly felt that way. So the point is, you have to look at stepping stones. And I actually had an uncle, Noble, that almost died of alcoholism. I mean, he had a severe heart attack in his late 30s. He had stopped drinking when he was 31. And genetically, it's definitely a part of that. But that's I did a very good video back like a couple months ago discussing that. And yes, certain life things, I mean, certainly exasperated, but it's still, I still believe like making excuses for stuff like that. It's not like maybe if I was in prison or something, but I still think one has to have accountability and just be able to be like, yeah, that was, you know, this judge, she goes by Judge Boyd, she's from Texas. There's a difference between a mistake and just like making bad choices. So something that like Todd's brought up is, okay, so MGTOW Cowboy had brought up about the Ukrainians, and then he said, why did this girlfriend break up with you in Ukraine?
I think I don't want to say it's because my lifestyle, like she knew that I wanted to see the world and stuff, because I did say that I wanted to pursue something serious with her. I think it's just because she wanted something better, and I was not that.
And what was her age range?
So she was just a little bit younger than me. So, you know, like a young chick, like working in a restaurant and stuff. Like it's like they don't make a lot of money. Like even in the Western world, like waitresses and like Starbucks chicks, like they don't make like any money, but in Ukraine they make even less. And of course, I couldn't provide jack shit because I didn't even have a job. So I think she just wanted some stability, or maybe
Okay.
I haven't looked her up, but of course now she's in her early 30s as we are. So I think
Okay. Do
maybe
you know if she got
the
married by chance and have
no,
children?
no, because we
Okay.
have friends in common, and she hasn't. But I don't know where she is. I just don't, and I mean, I'm not really that interested. Really, I
I
was very
see.
pleased with just being discarded.
Yeah. So, and you spoke mostly in Russian or English or Portuguese or
No, it was
both?
always English. It was always English
Okay.
because she really wanted to learn English, presumably so she could communicate with richer guys in the West. I think so. It had to be.
And the guy she ended up with, you said he was a rich Ukrainian.
So this guy had a boat and he was going all around the Black Sea. So from Odessa, he was going to Vama Veche and Constanza in Romania, and then to Varna
Mhm.
in Bulgaria, and then he was going like to Batumi in Georgia. And this guy had a boat
Oh,
and he could like
Batumi.
have yeah, and he could have chicks and stuff,
Oh.
and I could never compete with that. I didn't even have a car. How could I compete with that shit?
Hmm. Where was he
Bitches,
from?
man,
Ukraine.
bitches. Sorry, what?
Wait, and he was from Ukraine.
Yeah, he was like one of those rich Ukrainian men that were like older, like 40 something years old, and like was like rough, and he did like lift weights and like was doing into like some kickboxing and stuff, like not professionally, but like he was a rough dude with money and a boat.
And how did he make his money?
Yeah, I mean that's what I still question because I see now because there's a war and stuff. Now I see a lot of Ukrainian license plates over here in the West, and it's like the rich Ukrainians who could pay the bribe to come over here. But I think it's just guys who left to just I don't know deal drugs or like do like some crime or something because it's hard. It's easy to before the war. It was easier to go to the West to just like as a tourist, but to get like a working
Mhm.
visa because they always go like to Poland and like the next door country because the papers are easier and the language is easier. But I don't know what these like. This is what backpackers don't understand.
Mhm.
But like when you go to Ukraine, you can't think that just because you have a different passport from like a wealthier nation that you're gonna pull bitches. It's like motherfucker, you're staying in a hostel. There's motherfuckers in there who have money to buy boats. Like, do you know who you're competing with? These are
Mhm.
G's, man. These guys pull all the bitches.
Mhm.
And motherfuckers with a backpacker think they're hot shit. Get the fuck out of here with that crap. Get that nonsense out of my face, nigga.
Yeah. Wow.
Sorry, I don't want to get your channel in
Yeah.
trouble with using this
No,
this language.
you won't have it. No, my black students would let you. I mean, definitely make them just go hilarious. Um, no, but that is indeed true. The Ukrainians that think that like I mean it's a big country also. I mean you're gonna have very wealthy people that live I mean just like normal day to day lives. There's I mean where I live here in America, like in the picture actually this map actually is where my parents' house is. It's called I'm actually not going to say the name because well people could already I mean I'll just say it's in West Florida. I'm a few miles from the border to Alabama in the deep south. Cross a bridge and you're in Alabama. But do you know where Alabama is?
Yeah, it's like the not the deep south of the U.S., but it's in the south, I think.
Yeah, well, yeah, basically it's the deep south. But point in case is that even down here, I mean, most people, I mean, economically, I mean, it's tough to survive. Like if in West Florida, I mean, okay, let's put it this way. If you're in the medical sector, possibly in the military, if you're high enough in the U.S. military, you'll make like good money as an income. If you're otherwise, you have to like own a business of some sort, any kind of business. It could be a salon, it could be construction, electrical, HVAC, etc. You'll have to own some kind of business. Otherwise, I mean, you're going to just be part of the true working class, and I mean, it's hard eking out a living. But the thing is yeah, I mean, you still do have like super wealthy people. Take a guess, Noble, like we're the one of the wealthiest guys in the West Florida region. Guess where he's from? He's not from the U.S.
I mean, he's not from Ukraine, of course.
He's from a country that's close to Ukraine, though. I can tell you that.
Okay, he's definitely not from Moldova or Belarus.
No, I'll just hint. Just think more Middle Eastern.
Okay, I mean, the Emirates, perhaps?
Close. He's from Iran.
Really?
Yeah, the guy's from Iran. He's actually, in fact, I mean, he's one of the wealthiest guys in like the whole of West Florida. I mean, I don't know, it's not worth. It's in the tens of millions, but that's where he's from. Point in case, though, is that yes, you still do have, even in places like Ukraine, super wealthy guys in these places, irrespective of what the overall economy looks like for the average person. That, I mean, and also understanding where you get, I mean, you have to look at where the money goes, like the resources. MGTOW Cowboy, he's a truck driver. As he said, there's tons of Ukrainians in Chicago. And yeah, I mean, you go into trucking and you're certainly owner operator, you start your own business. There's a lot of criticism about trucking, but at the end of the day, it's a business. I mean, if a guy doesn't understand how businesses run, yeah, they're not going to do well. But there are definitely sectors, even now, like whether it's here in Florida or Chicago, I mean, you could still make a lot of money, for example, in trucking in Chicago. I worked at UPS as a finance auditor in Chicago, and it's a huge trucking hub nowadays in the US. So I can definitely testify with that girlfriend that you had. Yes, what maybe it was or maybe it wasn't legitimate money that that her soon to be boyfriend had ended up making. But Todd said when you told her you wanted something serious, forget it. What's your take on that?
I mean, you know how chicks are when they're young. Like they just they end up getting ran through, and they want to experience. It's like, oh, I need to find myself.
Just
And it's like
continue. MGTOW, I have to grab something here. I have to get some water. I'll be right back. You can just continue.
yeah, it's like this is a problem that a lot of guys make, and it's so sad. This is videos from like 2016, like old American dudes going to like Odessa to these like mail order bride websites, and then going over there and coming back uh, like brokenhearted and with a wallet empty and stuff. And it's a business over there, and it's the same with Russia. It's the same with Moldova. It's the same with Belarus. It's just they're monetizing the hottest bitches on earth, and it's just even the ones that don't work for those agencies, they do it their own way. Even before OnlyFans came along, it's just it's like how we say in the space, men are in love and women are in business, and guys just don't understand this. I mean, with all the information that is out there now for years, any motherfucker that gets himself in trouble, he deserves what he gets, because maybe he thought he was hot shit. Oh, that would never happen to me, or just he chose to ignore it, like what happened with Destiny. If you know who the streamer Destiny is, the guy with blue hair, you know, that little short liberal dude that recently got divorced to a Swedish bitch, by the way. It's just like these motherfuckers, like, and a lot of them are actually very intellectual and articulate, and they have like a good thinking skills and critical thinking skills. But when it comes to women, they just fall flat in their faces. It's just like motherfuckers don't know shit, and I don't understand.
Sorry about that.
Bro,
So yeah, I'm back. Um, Yeah. So, just say an energy drink, Todd. He was asking what I was drinking. I don't. Yeah. It just helps when I'm holding the can. Um. So yeah, my brother, of course, he lived in Russia for about 4 years. He got a master's degree there. Noble. Did you ever consider like doing a more conventional path there, like say going to a university or maybe try and get some kind of long-term visa in Ukraine when you were over there?
Yeah, but Tyler, how can I go to university if I didn't even finish school?
That's a good point.
And even if I could, I wouldn't. I'm especially now. Back
Hmm.
then, when I was a teenager, it felt unnatural. But now there's just no way. I can be paid to go to school, not just because I can sit down and listen, but
Hmm.
also because of all the false allegations that happen in college campuses and stuff. Like, no,
Hmm.
fuck that.
Is that happening also quite a bit in Portugal?
Dude, of course, especially here
Okay,
where I live in the capital. If this is the biggest city, of course it happens.
interesting. So, what do you mean when you say false allegations?
It's like you can just say something that she deems inappropriate. Like these bitches are now on social media saying that guys at the gym are staring at them and they're like
Oh,
creepy, right?
yeah,
It's like you can just like talk to a
yeah. When
chick
you
and
can see like their whole ass just like showing through.
it's like these bitches, they
Yeah,
will do anything for like an ego
attention.
boost because they want, yeah,
Yep,
it
it's
goes
for
beyond attention.
attention.
They want to get the guy in trouble because he thinks, oh, how dare you speak to me, how dare you think you have a shot with me. It's like, bitch, you're mid. If I slap you across the face, I'm gonna have makeup on my hands.
Wow. So yeah, Portugal is very like Western at this point. It's very liberal
It's always
and woke.
it always has been, but I would say like we're still not as bad as Spain or France or the UK, but it's we copy everything from the north because they have a better economy. So
Mhm.
everything legislative and all the laws, we just say, oh, follow what the northerns are doing. It's like, bitch, can you be original? It's like I can't. I'm embarrassed to say that I'm from here when people ask me where I'm from. I just say, hey man, does it really matter? And it's just I'm embarrassed really because with all
Yeah,
the
no, like
immigration,
yeah, it's like just so unhinged. I mean, this is like same problem that you're saying. I believe this is a whole difference. I know our country's going to be getting a new president like in November. I think you know who I'm referring to. Trump. I mean, I'm not saying he's a savior. No es decir que él es un salvador de un país, pero él es mucho mejor en comparación a otra gente de la política, la sistema de política. I mean, it, like the point is yes, when change is due to come, it will come. And Argentina is a prime example where my brother's. I've spoken to him, and he obviously has seen this change happen. And he also had brought up when he lived in Warsaw, he saw a multitude of luxury cars from Ukraine up to Bentleys and six-digit cars, which clearly illustrates they're getting money from somewhere. And we saw that with the Zelensky thing is a whole different topic, but I'm actually going to ask you about that real in short order. MGTOW Cowboy said that I'm telling you, give up on dating, just stay pro. Let me
yeah,
ask you,
I read that too, yeah, and I know what you're gonna ask.
what's that?
Like, what are my views towards prostitution?
Not exactly. I mean, I was just like, well, I mean, it was kind of taking a digression, but what's your take on this? MGTOW Cowboy, of course, is from stateside.
So, what do I think about pros?
Yeah.
I'm
Ukraine
not a
obviously has her fair share of them.
look. I've been with four because there's 2 days out of the year where I can't be alone. I'm fine staying 6 months by myself and not like pump. but there's 2 days of the year that I can't be without a chick. That's the New Year and my birthday. Coincidentally, they're both on the same month, so it's actually bad for me because it means I have to go like push myself like forward. But I've been with four, and it's actually it's like, I don't know if you ever like visited a pro, but it's like they're a lot more pleasant to you. Like they speak well, maybe because they know that if they mess with the wrong guy, they can get like uh, a knuckle sandwich or something. But I don't. I think women that don't do I don't want to say like the street walking route, or because OnlyFans is a whole different monster. But I think chicks at a brothel, if it's like clean, I'm actually in favor, because look at all these incels, like these
Oh
black
yeah, I am
pillars. They just
also.
Sorry,
they say
Mikhail.
like sorry, go ahead.
I just brought in my brother to give some feedback on this matter, so just so you know, he's here. But you can continue. I just was going to tell you that.
Oh, Todd is here.
Yes,
Yeah.
is that all right with you?
Yeah, man.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm coming from.
Sorry, what was that?
No, I was just gonna say well, I'm in Argentina now, so no, I mean, regarding the prostitution thing, I agree with you. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt your thoughts though. I have something to add on to it.
Yeah, please do.
You can continue though, Noble, just where you were left off.
Yeah, I was just going to say something important, because I visit all branches of the manosphere. Even we make fun of them, but even the PUAs, I want to know what they're saying so we can try to bring guys from there over here to the deeper layers of the iceberg. So I watch everything: PUA, MGTOW, monk mode, nofap, self-improvement type of videos, the compilations, and then there's like the doomers, the black pillars, and the incels. And
Oh,
then
those
I think
are.
the last guys, they just a lot of them are virgins, and it's like, dude, if you know that you're not going to get a chick, which I don't blame you, like shit is rough out here anywhere, just visit a pro. It's like she's not gonna bite your head off like a praying mantis or some fucking shit.
Well, yeah, and also, I mean, if these people are worried about like getting an actual relationship, it's like they can like. I mean, I mentioned this in the last video with Tyler, that there's something called geomaxing. I mean, they can go to a different part of the world where they're going to at least be treated at their same level. I mean, I think this idea that some of these guys throw around this idea that it's like it's hypergamous in America. I don't actually believe that, but that's a whole different conversation. I think hypergamy is actually closer to like what you see in Russia or places like this. But with that being said, though, is that as you said, why not see a pro? And what's interesting about it is seeing all these stupid ass libtard, fake socialists, fake communists in like in European Union. I'm sure you see this. I saw this video. I think it was in the Netherlands or something, where now the synthetic left, the fake left there, the globalists, they. And I mean, look, I'm not here. I mean, I wouldn't really classify myself as a communist. I mean, probably like closer to third position, but these fake communists that really, I mean, their ideology it has little to do with what you'd see in like North Korea or Soviet Union or something. I mean, those countries weren't like pushing like the kinds of filth that you see being pushed by these libtards. In fact, they would speak out against it. Stalin had a term for it, or Stalin or Lenin. They referred to it as the lumpen bourgeoisie, these fake leftist libtard types. And again, I'm not here to defend communism. I'm just saying it annoys me. And so these same people now, I guess in the Netherlands, I saw this video, it's like a year ago, they are now basically going after the prostitution there because, of course, it's normal. It's something that isn't like homosexual, for example.
I don't understand.
Yeah,
I think if you make anything, if you make anything illegal, people are just gonna want it more. So prostitution is never gonna going away. There's a reason why it's called the oldest profession in the world, and it will be the last profession of the world before the world comes to an end.
yeah, and that's why, like with Noble, it amazes me here in the U.S. There's this like demonization, like this. Look, I'll be frank with you. Unlike yourself, I would never go to a prostitute, but that's not to say. I mean, for many guys, it still serves a purpose. It's more authentic, and furthermore, it's actually like, I mean, it serves a purpose. Like if people want, like, I mean, it's so stupid. Also, when you look at dating apps, they're more dangerous for these women than going and having like actual official legalized prostitution. I think that's, I mean, just like crazy how it's this puritanical Anglo mentality in the U.S. that's prevailed now for so long. It's the only thing that like the liberals like to point out with like the Utah Mormons, because oh, they can have multiple wives. That's like it's like only like the super wealthy are supposed to enjoy themselves, but ironically those super wealthy in America, like I mean, pleasuring themselves with literally children or young boys. I mean, that's what doesn't make any sense nowadays in the US.
Nah,
That's,
fuck that.
yeah, but that's just how it's gotten. So yeah, but and MGTOW Cowboy said it right. I'm telling you, give up on dating, just get a bro. And I'm sure that's what he was referring to.
Yeah.
So you going back here, Todd, because you're on here now live. This is Todd. He also has a YouTube channel. And
I know. I used to follow both of you.
okay, so he said that when I lived in Warsaw, I saw a multitude of luxury cars from Ukraine up to Bentleys and 6 cars. What's both of your what's your take on this, Noble? Can you elaborate more, Todd?
Yeah, I mean, well, in where I was living, for example, I was basically living in a a like, well, obviously I was living in kind of Warsaw. I guess you could say a Jewy part. No, I don't know if there's any Jews left in Poland anymore, but it was one of these areas. I guess called Wola, and there were a lot of these higher earning Ukraine or higher wealth or higher wealth Ukrainians, I guess. And even when I was there, the guy I was renting from, he had I think it was a single mother, because I don't think the child was his. It was because just with how recently they had met and the age of the child. He had a girlfriend that was from Ukraine, single mother, and basically he was, well, I mean, like, I guess took her on as like his live-in girlfriend or something. And the Ukrainians that I encountered in Poland, honestly, and I know your experience was different, Noble Savage, or maybe it was because of the ones that I encountered in Poland were not good. We'll just say that. Like they were, I mean, the level of arrogance, narcissism, disrespect, contempt, I mean, was just unbelievable. And even here in Argentina, in passing, I've encountered a couple of Ukrainians. Same thing there. I don't know what it is about me. Ukrainians don't like me. I don't like them. So it's unfortunate, but I mean, I think I think there's a closer orientation of like Tyler and I are of course more Northern European, but I realize that maybe we're closer to like Southern, like you have Southern and Northern Europe, and maybe like the orientation is more like between Western and Eastern Europe. So maybe there's just something too local about my personality where like, I mean, I have no problem with communicating with Argentines. I mean, even right now, I'm trying to negotiate something, and it's a bit difficult because I lack some of the requisites, and I'm able to get along just fine. And I mean, yeah, when I was like, well, certainly dealing with the Ukrainians, I can't say it was pure bliss with the Russians either. I mean, they're different people, Eastern Slavs. I mean, this is why America has so many problems with them, I think.
Yeah,
So the question is, what do I think about Poland?
What's the question, Tyler, about the?
No, I was just letting you share kind of your input on the situation there in Poland. Obviously, as you've been there more
They're
recently.
taking over. Ukrainians are taking over the country, and I think that they act like it's theirs now. I mean, there's not really a whole lot else to say, and I think unfortunately the polls are like Noble Savage made a good point. Most of these European countries are moving, at least on paper, further to the right, but Poland is moving in the direction of jumping into the swamp with the globalist. I mean, it makes no sense to me. Like, I cannot understand that. Like,
okay, so I have something very interesting to say. When I was in Poland, and I've been there a few times, but then I stole some shit. I went to jail there, so now I don't want to go anymore. So
Okay, you went to jail in Poland. Well,
I've been to jail also, but not different reason. But you can continue.
I went to jail in Poland because I stole a camera because I wanted to sell it. I wanted to pawn it in a pawn shop to get money to travel. But then I was caught and I got a night in jail. But to this day, they still send mail to my house in Portugal to like not go to court, and I have to pay the fine, and I'm not going to pay. So this is why I tell guys, if the government is coming after you, never live in the address that you're registered, because that's the first place they're gonna look.
Yeah, I would agree.
But
in here in Florida, it's in the whole Gestapo hunting for you. But
yeah.
Continue. Yeah.
So I found a billboards in Poland, and it had a grandmother giving a kiss on the cheek of a baby, and the forehead of the grandmother was the flag of the European Union, and in the baby it was the Polish flag, meaning Poland would not be anywhere without the care of the European Union. Fuck that shit. Globalist propaganda, cocksucking shit.
Well, yeah, and that's really the depravity of the situation, and the fact that, like, look, I mean, I was talking to a Polish guy tonight, not long ago, and I mean, it's sad because I see more, like, especially with Poles, as they're, I think, considered Central or Western Slavs, they're closer to us Germanic people than, say, our Eastern Slavic people. So I see more parallels, and it's easier for me communicating with, like, say, Poles. And I mean, there's many skilled, capable people from there, and it's a real shame what they're doing to their country, because they're basically just throwing it down, like throwing their future down the drain. Maybe they don't see it now, but eventually it will. They will see the tangible results of what they're doing, and it's just, well, yeah. I mean, it's not a great situation. I don't really understand it, but
like essentially the whole European Union is no place for a man to go, because aside from Bulgaria, Romania used to be very good, but I think Andrew Tate really spoiled the reputation of the country because of all the human trafficking charges, which I don't believe he did it. I really don't believe he did it, but what the government is doing is trying to clean up his the image of the country by maybe passing new laws and stuff, and maybe introducing more feminist propaganda and stuff. And whatever Romania was, it's already gone.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, I mean, I think that with the situation right now, it's like EU, Romania. I mean, you have all these kinds of multinational entities that are really that are really trying to dictate the future. And I think, I mean, what's concerning for me, the EU is getting really aggressive toward Russia. I think with its changing demographics in America, as you can see, most Gen Zs, for example, and younger are not like Tyler and I. They're not of European origin. So I think looking into the future, it will not be possible for the U.S. to remain on top. I think anyone with half a brain can realize that even if the people that were really like, you know, the pulling the strings often were not like us Gentiles, they were of a different rate, of a different ilk, you could say, a different tribe. What kept the U.S. going and what made the U.S. The strongest country, I think, is that it did have the Germanic. Now, I wouldn't even just say European. I would say the Germanic core, and with that, it's not going. I mean, of course, yeah. It's like a train that's going really fast, and you start braking, and it's not going to immediately stop. It still has a lot of momentum. So I think that's what's happening now with the U.S. It's like a train that was going really fast, maybe without the brakes, but there's no more motor anymore. It's just going because of the momentum. But eventually it will stop. And I think that at that point, it's like I could see the EU becoming the real vanguard of kind of the anti-Russian, like, you know, the pro-feminine. Like I see like really strong feminist values, even like in Estonia and these little like Baltic statelets and stuff. So moving into the future, I could see a showdown, for example, between Russia and, say, the European Union.
Yeah. No, I would totally. What's your take on that, Noble?
I think America has to fall just because they destabilize so many countries. I want to see in my lifetime the European Union fall. I just, if it doesn't happen, I will do my best in the next trip. I'm just waiting for the good weather again to get my just get all my gear and go on an epic quest and destroy every feminist in my way. Not like violently, but like just with my views, and if I have to give my palm like a good sunburn, I mean, I wouldn't mind that. I mean, that's always good for the dopamine kick and everything. But you know what the fuck I'm talking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and that's something too. I was going to bring up with like Noble comes from like Portugal. I think they've been in the EU. What is it since the early 1990s? Is that correct?
Yes, since 1986. Iron Maiden's
19...
sixth album came out the same year.
Yeah, it's the late 80s, and so they were one of the like initial members of this alliance, and it's, as Noble has said, the consequences of it are pretty staggering. And I found too that like you see this common trend in all the EU countries. There's this steady decline of population. Conservative values, of course, are declining, or just like human values. Like I mean, animals in many places are living more normal than people are. I mean, this is the madness of the society that we live in at this point. And Portugal, of course, it's heavily promoted by the likes of Nomad Calpis. And you've heard of Andrew Henderson, Noble, or not? Andrew Henderson heavily promotes your country, Nomad Calpis. And this also, this is going back to your historical timeline, because this was obviously the initial core of the video. Did you ever consider, say, going to Brazil or something? Because Brazil is a Portuguese-speaking South American country, or even a Spanish-speaking country. Why didn't you say go to Brazil at some point?
Because life is beautiful and I don't want to die.
Okay.
Remember what Noble said about Brazil, Tyler?
Well, yeah. I mean, this is for this video, though. That's why I brought that up.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, because some people who may not have seen it. So, what was your? Because it seemed too dangerous, and people may not. Well, I'll just say it. Noble actually has a stepmom who's from Brazil. It's his dad's ex-wife, or his dad's wife. He was married 2 times before.
Yeah.
Sadly enough, many people still don't know Brazil is a Portuguese-speaking country here for all the viewers. So Noble could go to Brazil and speak the same language. But
oh God, no.
Yeah. Do you the accent though is quite different, correct, in Brazil?
It's like they make up like all these new words that, for example, a bus in
Yeah.
Portugal we say autocarro, and
Yeah.
in Brazil they say ônibus, like an oni bus, and it's like, motherfucker,
Wow, that
where?
sounds familiar.
It's like, motherfucker, what are you
Wow.
doing to my language?
Wow, that sounds like a certain ethnic group here in America. I mean, like sarcastic when I say that. That's like a well, that's like what a certain ethnic group likes to do to words in the U.S. or phrases. Interesting. And I'm like the one that's like people like identify as having like Asperger's and stuff. It's like no, prick, go and learn English.
Asperger's?
Yeah, that's a whole different topic. I mean, I'll tell you this, man, when you go into like these schools, like high schools, I mean, if you deal with like hood rats, as we call them in America, ghetto rats, whatever you want to call them, I mean, like they are some bad, like there's some decent ones, but there are some real bad people, and it's both the boys and the girls. It's not just, I mean, all this stigma is given to the boys. I mean, I mean, you have to be like back in the like, I mean, old days where you get like whips and stuff.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different topic. I don't even go into that because it'll just make me feel like really crappy when I think about that. But that's another. But anyhow, so you spent many years in Ukraine. You obviously pursued relationship. How many, more or less, how many relationships did you have in Ukraine?
Two. So I had Tatiana, and then I had Evelina.
And how
Evelina was
many
the one.
years or months did each one last for?
I stayed with Tatiana for a year. I stayed with Evelina for another year.
Okay.
Oh, that was more successful than mine. Mine were, oh my gosh.
Successful?
Yeah. Well, in my case, it was like, let's see here, 6 or 7 weeks. And then it was like 4 months. It was 4 months. It was 3 months, 12 days, couple more months. Like it was, I mean, that's for me, that's long for being like an Eastern Slavic country.
Oh, you know, bitches like criminals. Am I right?
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah,
you
I
have to
guess.
come to America. No, I'm
Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Yeah, apparently that's the case.
So,
But
did you like first see, because okay, so just a timeline here for all the folks watching here on YouTube, subscribers. This was Noble first went to Ukraine in 2015, or this is when he first went to stay longer. He was in his early 20s. Him and I are almost the same age. He's a little older. When you went to Ukraine the first, or when you were there, Noble, did you intend for these relationships to be longer, or did the girl, did she usually break up with you at some point?
I mean, I asked one of them to marry me because I thought I could stay in the country forever.
Okay, and how many years ago, more or less, was that?
Tatiana was the entirety of 2015, and Evelina was 3 years ago, so 2021.
And the one you proposed, she refused.
Yeah, but
Okay.
in a very subtle way. Like she didn't
Huh.
say no. She said, "Oh, let's see how our relationship will be in the future." Like it's like, no, I don't want to marry you, but don't go anywhere because I don't have anyone better right now.
Was it
Cunt.
like the first or the second that you proposed to?
The second one?
Okay. And another question, I don't really ask you this, Noble. Like, what made you appeal to Ukrainians of all people?
I don't know. I think just they seem to be the most conservative. They would seem to be the most stratcon, but they seemed. But I came to that. I guess I was just being deluded and delusional also. But they were not so like how can I say? They didn't seem so greedy. But then I learned that the gold digging is like even worse. Um, I guess I just wanted somewhere to live. I wanted to have rights to live in a cheaper country, so I could go and like not have to work for long periods of time.
Yeah, it makes sense. I mean, something to keep in mind too is, and this is, I think, really a valid point, if I may say this. What I found with Slavic people is that, generally speaking, Slavs have to have a reason for doing something. And so what I mean by this is that they're not just going to do something for the heck of it. Like, I think in America, there's this idea that often people will, like, I don't know, do charity or do whatever just for the heck of it. Just, I don't know. They don't really even think about it. It's just like, oh, whatever, I'll do it for whatever reason. If it works, great. If it doesn't, whatever. And I think that is contrary to the Eastern Slavic mentality. And so when it comes to relationships, the girls that are choosing to go with foreigners or Western foreigners, I guess in our cases, we're all from Western countries, are probably you could certainly say they're turning down their own guys. And additionally, they're how do I say this? Like, they're ones that are, you got to ask yourself, like, what's going on? Why are they not just going with their own guys? Because generally what I've seen is the relationships, the few that did last longer term in Russia, for example, probably same thing in Poland, were usually ones where it was two people that were from there, like they were both Slavic people. What I saw usually of multinational relationships, usually they didn't last. So I think it's the kind of, I think it's also what I'm saying here is it's the kind of girl that's going to enter a relationship like that. It's not like in America, you could go to America, Noble Savage, and you could meet girls that were not antisocial, that were basically actually good for long-term relationships, that were actually interested in a foreigner. Mm-hmm. What I found is that in Russia, it's not like that, or in Poland.
I mean, it's my experience too. For example, a lot of the people that I met in my trips, a lot of the other backpackers from the west side of the continents, yeah, their philosophy was always, oh, let's go to Australia or let's go to the US. And I'm like, okay, but why? And the response was always, why not? And I'm like, that's your motive? Whereas with Russians and other Slavic people, like they have plan A, plan B, plan C, and the entire alphabet. And if something goes wrong, they know what to do. Like they're really mature people, and they do it always to benefit themselves and their future. And I really admire that.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's a good way to put it. It's like when you look at the contrast between the mindset of, well, like what you just said, and look, I mean, this mindset of like just kind of doing stuff on the fly or just seeing kind of how things work out. I see some of that even like in Argentina, where people are much more open actually than Eastern Slavic people, and even the kind of like the kinds of girls that I would attract here are not like what I would attract in Poland. Like the few that I could attract in Poland, don't ask me why, would be like feminist and like, I mean, I don't get why. Whereas the ones I would attract here would just be more normal, like mainstream girls, you could say, which I know mainstream isn't so good nowadays, but in some ways I've realized sometimes that's better. Like if it's an option between, well, it's a lot better if it's an option between some like self-identified like feminist or something, or someone who's like actually just kind of the mainstream of their society. So yeah, it's part of the problem I noticed in the Eastern Slavic countries. And there was a guy we followed, Tyler and I know of, maybe you do also. His name's Uncle Bildy. He was married to a Ukrainian from Crimea, well, Russian Crimea, I don't know, whatever you call her. And she covertly divorced him. They had 3 children together. He was going back and forth between U.S. and there. And she ended up scamming him out of wasn't that much, I mean, but it was a little bit of property, like the house and stuff. and she just did it all behind his back. And it was like, at that point, I was so burned out. Like literally, I've been burned by so many girls there that I wasn't surprised. Like when I saw this story, I'm like, what a surprise. And that was one of the things that even motivated me to get my YouTube channel started. It was after I think it was, let's see here, it was after relationship number 3 or 4, where I was just so exhausted by that point. And I mean, I honestly thought going there that, oh, this is going to be great. Like in Russia, like this would be fantastic, that the girl would want to want like a longer relationship, and that she would be loyal, not realizing that, oh, she'd just break up with me after a few months. So unfortunately, that's the world, I guess, right?
But I mean, it's like guys. A lot of guys they just have the wrong. I don't want to say mindset, because that's what the PUAs like to say. Oh, you just don't have the right mindset, bro. No, guys just don't have the right strategy. And what I mean by that is, for example, a lot of guys, like I met a lot of backpackers going also to Ukraine and Moldova to play the exact same game, and they were good-looking guys. And the chicks, they were breaking up with them. They were using them for food, using them for money, and they left wondering, what the fuck am I doing wrong? And it's like, well, okay, you're admitting that you are doing something wrong, because the hardware is all the same. You can go to China, you can go to Ukraine, America, it's all the same. But it's like, I once I like when I discovered like MGTOW and stuff. I was like going through the red pill rage, and every new chick that I was meeting, I was like, I will not put up with any bullshit, any disrespect that you throw at me. Expect to have get a I don't want to say knuckle sandwich, because I never punched the woman in the face, but I have slapped a few, and it's like they never had a problem with it. It's like the only people that have a problem with me hitting women are men, because the women are like, well, if we have an understanding, maybe it won't come to that. I'll try to make sure that I don't upset you or something. But when I tell guys, like blue pill dudes, that I put my hands on women, like slapping them around, like they just say like, what? No, you can't do that. No, that's not civil. And I'm like, motherfucker, I'm not civil. I don't live in the same world that you do.
Yeah, exactly. Well,
it's like, I'm so tired of all the cocksuckery. It's like, just learn some stuff, you know?
Well, and if you look, I mean, if we're being honest to ourselves, if there weren't like, look, let me just say one disclaimer. I'm not saying all men are good. I mean, obviously there's a lot of really crappy men out there also, but if we were living in a society where it was just women, literally we'd be living in the like dark ages or worse. Probably, I'm not even joking. Like we'd still be living. I truly believe that. Like we'd be living in like probably caves still, maybe at best some kind of primitive houses or something. So it's like, I think a lot of this stuff, I mean, including the really bad stuff that you see coming from the women, ultimately originates with these guys, these really stupid, just terrible, like blue pill guys that enable this kind of bad behavior, bad everything. It's like it's like, and then guys, I mean, of course, a guy like you can do, of course, exert authority, but it sometimes seems to me that the only way, like one would have to be like a Vladimir Putin or something, where they could actually exert like a more of a monopolistic authority over the woman or women, where, I mean, obviously if a guy like him, he could do whatever the heck he wanted. I mean, to disappearing a woman and nothing would happen. And I think in today's world, it would almost require that kind of authority for someone to be pretty certain that nothing was going to happen to the girl or to the woman, that she wasn't going to stray.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's precisely true. I mean, And something, sorry, there's been some cutoffs to everyone because internet connections are different from person to person, but just bear in mind with us. And yeah, Noble should be back here pretty soon. But for anyone here who doesn't know, this is my brother, Todd, and he's obviously kind of been giving his feedback on certain matters. Obviously, I'm not. Um, we live completely different lives, so just keep that in mind. But how's it? You're obviously in Argentina, Todd. How it seems like it's been going very well. How's the past week been for you?
Oh, it's been great. Overall, everything's been excellent. Like actually smoother than what I thought. Like hardest thing, one of the things was trying to figure out a place to live, but that's actually seemed to be working out. So I think I'll have something arranged. One of the things that helps a lot. I mean, well, we were here together at one point. Was my Spanish was not at a, I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't like at a level where I could actually like negotiate through the stuff, talk. I mean, no one, like literally no one now. I don't say no one. There was some person at a hotel where it's weird, like probably just used to a bunch of foreigners, where she was keep on trying to interrupt me in English. But um, that was like the only time. Like people now, like even some people here will say that I talk well in Spanish. So
Yeah.
I don't think
Well,
they're just
yeah, and for anyone here, like I actually work as a teacher, and I had a student. His parents were from Mexico. He grew up in Texas, and I was speaking to him in Spanish. This fellow is 14 years old, and he said, "I mean, you speak very good Spanish. Like totally different accent, more Europeanized, more like kind of like an Argentina accent." But he had no issue understanding you. So this is a really important point. If you find people like in America and they don't like your Spanish or something, it's probably less to do with like how you speak. It's more of like a cultural, just
yeah.
because these people, some of the people are really stupid. Like they don't,
Yeah, man.
they have their own ideals of Spanish that people. It's completely different. So Noble, of course, here. I mean, he speaks Portuguese. This guy has great like. I mean, he could speak Spanish like a fluent person
No
because
worries.
Portuguese is part of the Romantic five language group family. So, is that correct, Noble? You can understand most Spanish. Noble.
It's a bad connection.
Okay. Yeah, it's kind of an iffy connection, but he can certainly understand most like Spanish, being from Portugal. So just something to keep in mind. The accent variation is pretty profound when you go to like many different countries. But for anyone looking like that feels really screwed over with like dating and stuff, where Todd is in Argentina, I mean, it is much better. It's better. It's compared to here in Florida. I mean, there's no comparison. It's 20 times better. But yeah,
Have you tried dating there?
no, no. I've lived like the MGTOW lifestyle, and I don't plan on changing that. But like, just describe some of your experiences over in Argentina, Todd.
Well, overall, I don't really
You have
have.
a gal I know coming over pretty soon.
Yeah, I don't have like a whole lot to say. Not yet, at least. But overall, I would say that it's been very good. Certainly, much better than what I had going in, like say Poland, for example, the European Union. It's like it's. I mean, guys that are like maybe 10 or 20 years ago, you could go to some of the EU states was okay, but not really anymore. And it's just yeah, I mean, not really going to work. So here though, different story.
Yeah, I mean that's incredible, and I mean Todd's a very high earning guy. I mean, even for U.S. standards, he makes more than the average person. For Argentina, he makes way more than the average person. So, I mean, this isn't like some loser. Are you back, Noble? Okay, sorry. Bear with us, Noble. There's like some connection issues here, but fortunately we have Todd for a supplement here. But so tell us, Todd, Argentina, you came here like a week ago.
Yes.
Or a week and a half ago. What has your experience been, and do you see yourself living there, like say the next year or a few years in the future?
Yeah, I would say so. I mean, overall, it's been going quite good. I would say. I mean, there's been it's been mostly positive. I think people here generally treat me pretty well. I think. I mean, as well as someone can be for going through a really harsh economic crisis. I imagine a lot of people are quite stressed. So I mean, I don't. I mean, that certainly would be a relevant factor. But I think, like in general, yeah, I mean, it's I've been able to maneuver, and I sometimes think that like with getting a business going, even irrespective of the like with some of the negative aspects, I can see how at home. I think at home really had a lot of potential. It's obviously another story. Most of your subs don't know about that, but just like my interactions with people and stuff, I think I see more. In some ways, I actually see more potential. Like I think what was that one company that was on the NASDAQ or NISA? Remember when it had that like surge? Wasn't it something in Argentina?
Yes, it was.
I can't remember the name of that company, but
it was some Mercado Libre. It was something else.
No. Yeah, I could see myself doing more. Like I could do more probably here. I think from a business perspective.
Oh yeah, I mean culturally speaking, as you were pointing out, with like Eastern Slavic people, there's definitely like some like mental wiring. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the things that like I realized that like maybe I just wasn't really a good fit. So I don't know, some of these guys that like your Tim Kirby's and stuff, no offense. I mean, he's put out some decent stuff, but I don't know, some of these guys like, well, maybe isn't he Slavic though, ethnically?
Yes, he is indeed.
Yeah, maybe. But in people that we know personally, Tyler, other people that are with like Poles or these people, usually they themselves even are ethnically Slavic. So I wonder if that plays a role as well.
Yeah. So what I do is just end this here because I will bring on Noble hopefully tomorrow or something when his connection is better. Potentially start another stream with Todd because he's obviously here at the moment. So thank you guys for following. We'll finish the rest of Noble's story. It's very profound, very unique and interesting guy. So like I said, just stay on here because I want to continue on with Todd. So just stay patient. Thank you everyone who's following for now, and yeah, adios, sayonara. Thank you. Yeah.